قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم معلم القرآن يستغفر له كل شيء حتى الحوت في البحر.
The Messenger of Allah, peace be upon him and his family, said, everything in existence prays for the forgiveness of the person who teaches the Quran, even the fish in the sea.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والشمس وضحاها والقمر إذا تلاها والنهار إذا جلاها والليل إذا يغشاها والسماء وما بناها والأرض وما طحاها ونفس وما سواها فألهمها فجورها وتقواها قد أفلح من زكاها وقد خاب من دساها كذبت ثمود بطغواها إذ انبعث أشقاها فقال لهم رسول الله ناقة الله وسقياها فكذبوه فعقروها فدمدم عليهم ربهم بذنبهم فسواها ولا يخاف عقباها صدق الله العلي العظيم.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Dear viewers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May the peace, mercy and guidance of Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be with you all. Welcome to our special program on birth anniversary of Imam Ali alayhi salatu wassalam on 13th of Rajab, which is this year 13th of May. Whether we ask ourselves who was Ali, how much we know about the personality of Imam Ali alayhi salam. We heard in this country the names like Ashraf Ali, Irfan Ali, Hazrat Ali, A. Ali and Sons, Jafar Ali, and like this. We have plenty of people whose name is Ali, whether the first name or the last name is Ali. So we have to understand who was Ali. Imam Ali was the greatest personality after Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he was the cousin brother of Rasulullah and also the son-in-law of Rasulullah. He was the son of Abu Talib, who was the uncle of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib salawatullah wa salamuhu alayhi was born on the 13th of Rajab in the year 600 and died on the 21st of Ramadan in the 40th year after Hijrah. He occupies a prominent position within the religion of Islam as being revered as one of the greatest leaders in Islamic history, a man from whose life many extraordinary lessons may be learnt and many examples may be derived, and a man who was seen as the embodiment of knowledge, generosity, valor and bravery, as well as dedication towards the religion of Islam.
He was the one who helped Rasulullah in the early Islam to spread the Islam in Mecca. He was the one and only personality of Islam who born inside the Kaaba, the Masjid al-Haram.
Fatima bint Asad, upon her circumambulation of the Kaaba, recited a supplication that is with us until today. She said, "O Allah, in the name of your majesty, and the name of your power, and in the name of the prophets you sent from the line of Ibrahim alayhi salam, help me in this period with the pangs of labor and the pangs of childbirth, and make it easy for me." the Kaaba opened up for her and she entered the Kaaba. And she stayed within the Kaaba for 3 days. An honor in Islamic history only reserved for Ali ibn Abi Talib. That he is the only man in Islamic history to be born in the Kaaba. You will find that there are some other historical references to other people being born in the Kaaba. But this was a group of people who tried to diminish from the prestige of Ali ibn Abi Talib. The only man in history to be born in the Kaaba, to be born in that black cube that you find in Mecca, was Ali. And that's why you find when his mother emerged from the Kaaba on the 4th day, the first person to welcome her was the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The Prophet welcomed her, he took Ali from her hands, and the Imam himself would narrate that from that day, throughout his childhood, the Prophet would embrace Ali. He'd chew the food before he'd place the food in the mouth of Ali. And even he would say, I would follow the Prophet in those early days like the child of a she-camel would follow its mother. A she-camel, wherever it walks, its child would follow it. Its child would never leave it. Ali says that in those early days, I would follow the Prophet like a child of a she-camel would follow its mother. I used to see the light of revelation and I would hear the words of prophethood. When the religion was only 3, it was me, Khadija, who were always alongside the Prophet. The Prophet came up to him. The Prophet was how old when Imam Ali was born? The Prophet was 30. There was a 30-year age gap between the Prophet and the Imam. The Prophet came to the Abu Talib and he said to him, Abu Talib, let me and my uncle Hamza and my uncle Abbas take responsibility for your children. Abu Talib said to him, who do you want to take responsibility of? He said, let me bring up Ali. In other words, from a young age, Rasulullah, the Prophet, wanted to bring up Ali in the way Abu Talib brought him up. He wanted to take the responsibility of bringing up the young Imam. A young Ali brought Abu Dhar towards Rasulullah. From a young age, therefore, Ali ibn Abi Talib had the maturity to be able to carry the message of the religion. And that's why when Da'wat al-Ashira happened, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the verse in Surah 26, verse 214, وَأَنذِرْ عَشِيرَتَكَ الْأَقْرَبِينَ, invite and warn your nearest relatives. Rasulullah told the young Ali, he said, Ali, come near me. You are 13 years of age. I want you to do something for me. He said, what is it? He said, I want you to prepare a meal for me. He said to him, Ya Rasulullah, which meal? He said, get a sheep for me and get 1 kilo of wheat and 3 kilos of yogurt. And I want you to make a feast and I want you to invite your uncles and my uncles as well. Because of course Ali's uncles are Muhammad's uncles. Abu Lahab, Abu Talib, Hamza, Abbas, these are all the uncles of the two of them. When they came that day, a momentous incident occurred which was vital in studying the biography of Ali ibn Abi Talib. What was it? That when they came that day, the Prophet had said to them on the first occasion, welcome to my house, I have glad tidings to give you about the message of the religion. Abu Lahab did not accept, but on the second time that they came, they listened to him. The Prophet said to them, you know that I am truthful, and you know that I am trustworthy, and you know that I have not lied to any of you. I have come to bring you a message of goodness, to worship only one God, and not to put partners to God, and that there is a day of judgment where you will be accountable for all your acts, and that there is no difference between male and female, or between black and white. Abu Lahab looked and he said, Muhammad, what is this sorcery that you're trying to bewitch us with? The Prophet then said, whoever amongst you accepts me as his prophet will be my caliph and the successor after me. There's a point here. that from a young age, Ali was already instructed with that message to be the successor, because Ali at the age of 13 raised his hands and he said, "O Prophet of God, I will listen to your message and I am the first to accept your words." Abu Lahab turned around to Abu Talib. He said to him, "Abu Talib, it looks like one day your son's going to have to lead you." He tried to mock him. Notice Ali at the age of 24, when the whole of Mecca has decided to combat the message of the Prophet. The Prophet at that age, Ali was 23, 24 years of age. The Prophet comes to Ali. He says to him, "Ali, they have decided that they want to kill me. But not one of them, no. A number of them are going to come together and kill me. So would you do a task for me?" Ali said to him, "O Prophet of God, what is the task?" He said to him, "The task is that I want you to sleep on my bed. Are you ready to sacrifice your soul for the message of the religion of Islam?" Do you know what the reply is? The reply is a reply for someone at 23, an immense reply. He looked at him and he said, "Ya Rasulullah, will you be safe?" He replied to him, "Yes, I will." He said, "Then my soul is dedicated to your soul, and my spirit is dedicated to your spirit." And then he went back into his room into prostration and 3 times said, "Shukran lillah, shukran lillah, shukran lillah." All thanks is to Allah, all thanks is to Allah, all thanks. Because he said, "This is a night which God has honored me, where He has allowed me to sacrifice my soul for the religion of Islam." That night when they came, they tried to attack. They saw Ali sleeping in the bed of his Prophet. After that, the Prophet had said to him, "Ali, the next day I want you to perform a task." He said, "What is it?" He said, "There are a number of my enemies who have deposited their trusts with me. I find no one better in this religion but you to return the trust back to them." Rasulullah had already left and he had gone towards Medina. When he had left, Ali had a responsibility number 3. After sleeping in the bed, after returning the trusts, he had to take the Fatimas to Medina with him. Who did he take? He took Fatima, the Lady of Light, the daughter of the Prophet. He took his mother, Fatima bint Asad. He took Fatima, the daughter of Hamza, his uncle. And they went towards Medina. And I tell you something, many people do not acknowledge how unsafe the journey was for Ali ibn Abi Talib. Many people think Rasulullah and Abu Bakr had an unsafe journey. They do not realize that when they couldn't catch up with Rasulullah, they put their eyes on Ali. And it was that journey when they realized that they had a warrior on their hands who none of them will ever face in war. Because Ali ibn Abi Talib, on his way to Medina, when he reached Medina, he met Rasulullah before Medina at Masjid Quba. Those of you who've been to Hajj will know about Masjid Quba. All of you have to visit Masjid Quba at that period. Masjid Quba, Rasulullah was at Quba, he was going to go to Medina. They said to me, "Ya Rasulullah, why don't you leave for Medina?" He said, "How can I leave without the son of Abu Talib alongside me? I'm going to wait here until Ali reaches me." Do you know when Ali ibn Abi Talib reached, his whole body was full of blood. They had ambushed him and he himself stood up for the Fatimas. You think Fatima al-Zahra would marry any man? She saw Ali ibn Abi Talib defend her so valiantly even before he had married her. His body was full of blood. And it was during that journey that he made it clear, "I do not mind me alone fighting all of you, because I know I will come out victorious." And that's why as soon as he reached Medina, Rasulullah did 2 things for him to honor his position. The first thing Rasulullah did, he made a brotherhood between the Ansar and the Muhajirin. The Muhajirin were the migrants who left Mecca to go to Medina. The Ansar were the people of Medina. Rasulullah didn't want any tension between the 2 of them. So he brought the 2 of them together and he gave each of the Muhajirin an Ansari partner. It was known as the Pact of Brotherhood. For the Muhajirin, for example, Abu Bakr, he gave Kharij ibn Zuhair al-Khazraji. Umar, he gave Aitan ibn Malik. Uthman, he gave Al-Aws ibn Thabit. The people asked, "Ya Rasulullah, who is your partner? Who is your brother?" He said, "For me, only Ali ibn Abi Talib." He said, Ali is to me like Aaron was to Moses, except that there is no prophet after me. Then number two, there were many of the companions whose houses were in Mecca or in Medina. All their doors would open to the mosque. Allah ordered that every one of those doors is to be closed except the door of Ali and Fatima. In other words, there was a distinction given to Ali, and you find the son of Abu Talib from a young age. In his first battle for the religion of Islam at the age of 24, the battle of Badr, then the battle of Uhud, then the battle of Khandaq, then the battle of Khaybar, showed a distinction like none others on the battlefield. I tell you, in Islamic history, they tried to give you many names for great warriors. There is not a single warrior in Islamic history who came near the dust of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Ali ibn Abi Talib on the battlefield had a distinction. Someone will say, what's the distinction? At Badr, half of the opposition were destroyed by Ali ibn Abi Talib. At Uhud, Rasulullah was alone on the mountain. It was Ali, Miqdad, Ammar, Abu Dujan al-Ansari, and a lady called Al-Harithiyah who helped him. And on that day on Uhud, that was when the famous cry came, there is no youth but Ali, and no sword but Dhul-Fiqar. But at Khandaq and Khaybar, he displayed a spiritual side to him which made him the complete human being. What do I mean? I mean, a warrior is normally reckless, aren't they? Warriors are reckless. And not only are they reckless, they tend to be arrogant as well, isn't it? These combinations are normally the combinations of a warrior. They're either reckless or arrogant. You hardly find any ethics in warriors. It's very rare to find any spirituality in warriors. You know, when he finished Khandaq and Khaybar, he did two things after those battles which showed Rumi's famous lines when Rumi said, in bravery you are the lion of your Lord, but in generosity who knows who you are. Rumi says about Ali, in bravery you are the lion of your Lord, but in generosity who knows who you are. At Khandaq, Amr ibn Nawid kept on telling them, who's gonna come out and fight me? What's wrong with you people? Mohammed promises you heaven. If I kill you, you go to heaven. If you kill me, you will go to heaven. Why don't you fight? Ali came out to fight him. When he introduced himself, he said, what's your name? He said, I am Ali, son of Abu Talib. He said to him, I will not kill you. Your dad was a good friend of mine. You can go. The Imam replied, but I will kill you because you're an enemy of Allah. When they began the war, Amr ibn Nawid knew that he'd win. Amr ibn Nawid was known for wrestling with the lions. Midway through the war, the people noticed the dust had gathered between the two in combat. Ali walks away, pauses, then comes back in and strikes, and emerges and says, God is great. The people are confused. When the people were confused, they asked Ali upon his return, what was that moment that you paused? There is a moment in Ali ibn Abi Talib which is a lesson for all of us. If man angers you, remain patient. Only get angry when Allah's message is angered. Because when Ali came back, they said to him, why did you walk away? He said, as I was about to strike Amr ibn Nawid, he spat at me. If I struck him, then I would have struck him for my own ego. But I never strike a human because of my ego. So I walked away. I returned back into the battle and I struck him because he angered the message of God. Then at Khaybar he lifts a gate which none can lift. I'm not concerned with what he lifted. What I'm concerned is what allows you to be so powerful. Because you know, after Khaybar he comes back from the battle, he begins to cry. They come to him, they say, oh son of Abu Talib, why do you cry? You've just lifted a gate, others can't lift. He replies by saying, I can't bear to see the Jewish soldiers with a rope around their hands. Loosen the rope, are they not human beings? Then he returns home. His wife Fatimah is next to him. She offers him some bread. He was known for his piety that he would only eat dry bread, not soft bread. Because he would say, how can I eat soft bread when there are poor in the Muslim world? He tries to break the bread, but the bread doesn't break. They say, "Oh son of Abu Talib, you lifted a gate which 40 couldn't lift, and you can't break a piece of bread." He said, "The gate I lifted for Allah, the bread I'm trying to break is for Ali." And then he said, "قلعت باب خيبر لا بطاقة جسمانية ولكن بطاقة روحانية." I lifted the gate of Khaybar not with my physical strength, but with the strength of my ruh. If I could understand my soul, then I can understand my Lord. And the moment I understand my Lord, everything is easy before me. And even after that battle at Hunayn, were it not for Ali staying behind, this religion would have been destroyed. The greatest performance of Ali ibn Abi Talib, and I ask all of you to read up on it, was at Hunayn, not at Badr, not at Uhud, not at Khaybar, not at Khandaq. Imam Zayn al-Abidin in Sham says, "I am the son of the one who fought at Badr and Hunayn," because Ali at Hunayn was left alone against the opposition and finished them. Ali ibn Abi Talib, therefore, if he saw any injustice, he would speak out. He wouldn't just remain silent. He taught us an ethical lesson. Muslims, when you see dhulm of any type, be it big, be it small, never remain silent against injustice. Akhlaq of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Today, when we have an issue with someone, they curse us, we keep that hatred with us forever. Whereas Ali would teach us, no, don't keep that. And that's why while Khalifa, nobody loved and respected Ali ibn Abi Talib like non-Muslims. His Muslims were killing him, were fighting him. Ali ibn Abi Talib, the Christians and the Jews loved him and mourned him. Imagine that when Ali has a famous line in his letter to Malik al-Ashtar, which Kofi Annan and the United Nations said is the greatest letter of government ever written by a human being. Imam Ali's letter to Malik al-Ashtar in Nahj al-Balagha. Imam Ali tells Malik, know that people are of two types. They are either your brothers in faith or your equals in humanity. And in another line he says, and this line should be cemented on the walls of our mosques, "Know, O Muslims, our enemy is not the Christians or the Jews. Our enemy is our own ignorance." When he walks past the church, his companion says to him, "I wonder how much polytheism is being done by the people of the church." Imam says, "I wonder how much monotheism is being worshipped." One looked at the cup half empty. Ali would look at the cup half full. When he'd walk in the street, if there was a Christian begging, Ali would say, "Why is this man begging?" When he was young, we'd look after him because he was working for us. Now he's old, no one looks after him. "I will not move from my position until one of you promises to sponsor this Christian." And that Jewish man who cried for Ali when he heard he died, they asked him why. He said, "I was walking towards Kufa with a stranger. And I was walking towards my home with this man going towards Kufa. This man was a stranger. We started talking. I told him I'm Jewish. He said he is Muslim. We kept on talking and talking. Today Muslims, as soon as they see someone Jewish, they generalize that all the Jewish people are wrong. All the Jewish people are bad. Whereas I tell you, sometimes you may find a Jewish person that's got more humility than some of our own people. He says, I was talking with him. I said, I'm Jewish, he's Muslim. We're talking and talking and talking, and I remembered in the beginning of the conversation, he said, I'm going to Kufa. But now we had gone past Kufa, going towards my house. So I turned around to him, I said, oh man, you said you're going to Kufa. Why are you still walking with me? He said, because in Islam, we have been taught that the right of the person who travels with us is that we do not leave them until they give us permission. You never gave me permission. So I kept on walking to your house. He said, go ahead, I give you permission. Today I have learnt about your religion through your morals. The narration states that that Jewish man, as Ali left, his Jewish friend came up to him, he said, how did you form a relationship with him? He said, what do you mean? He said, do you know who that was? He said, no, just one of the Muslims who lives as part of the empire. He said, that's the head of the empire. He said, Ali ibn Abi Talib? He said, yes. He said, the caliph of the whole Islamic state? He said, yes. He said, why did he come near the Jewish areas? He said, would you believe? He said to me, the rights in Islam of a traveler is that you have to wait for their permission before they let you go. That morals of Ali ibn Abi Talib would continue until the day he died.
The great personality of Imam Ali was most eloquent in Arabia after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, bravest personality of Islam, who defended Islam in many battlefields, the most generous person in Islamic history, that whatever he earned, he spent on the needy of the society. He himself was living a very simple life, not utilizing even what he had. His simplicity was famous in entire Arabia. Imam Ali alayhi salam was most knowledgeable personality in Islam after Rasulullah. Rasulullah himself mentioned about him that Ana Madinatul Ilm wa Aliyun Babuha. I am the city of knowledge and Ali is the gate of that city. Imam Ali himself mentioned that I used to go and learn from Rasulullah, and whenever Rasulullah used to teach one topic, I used to derive thousands of topics out of it. So that's how Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam had plenty of knowledge. It is mentioned that once he was passing by and people in Arabia used to speak about the Arabic language, and they used to mention that it is very hard to make sentence in Arabic language without using the dots, without using the letters which carries dots. Like in Arabic language, you know that alif is not carrying dot. The alphabet B is carrying one dot. Alphabet T is carrying two dots. So most of the alphabets in Arabic language carrying dots. 1, 2 or 3 dots. So they were talking that it is very hard to make a sentence using the letters without using the letters which carrying dot. Then Imam Ali immediately he delivered a sermon not using those letters which carrying dots. And that sermon was meaningful and very much eloquent sermon. That sermon is recorded in the history, and now we have a book, in the form of book, in which we have the sermons delivered by Imam Ali alayhi salam, as well as the letters he wrote to different personalities, and also his wisdom words. Anyone, whether they are Muslim or non-Muslim, if they go through with these wisdom words, which is mentioned in Nahjul Balagha, the peak of eloquence, that book is available online, translated into different languages. Among that is Nahjul Balagha. You can go to Google and search Nahjul Balagha. You can find the book, and you go through randomly and read the wisdom words. You feel that you are driving into the ocean of knowledge. You understand many things about this universe and your life and even life in hereafter. You can correct yourself, you can purify yourself, and also you can make use of those wisdom words in your lifestyle.
Rajiv Gandhi would say, I would never enter a cabinet meeting in my government without a new minister being given Ali's letter to Malik al-Ashtar. Rajiv Gandhi. Kofi Annan would say, that letter to Malik al-Ashtar is the greatest letter anyone has ever written. Ralph Emerson, the famous American philosopher, would say, no human can understand the essence of humanity like Ali ibn Abi Talib. How? He says, look at the mixture on one human being. In 1 minute he's a warrior, the next minute he's a leader, the next minute he's a man of knowledge, the next minute he's a man of philosophy. Have you seen a human being is rounded? He says, look at his words. Which human says, oh mankind, you came from a drop of semen and you leave as a piece of dust. You don't know when you came and you don't know when you're going. So why do you walk around like you know everything? He says, which human would say, mankind, know yourself, then you'll know your Lord? He says, which human would look at the peacock and say, the peacock is the clearest sign of an arrogant creation which is insecure? Because a peacock makes you look at its feathers because it's insecure about its skinny legs. Which human being has understood the essence of worship that he says, God, I do not worship you because of my fear of hell, because that's the worship of a slave. And I don't worship you because of my love of heaven, because that's the worship of a businessman. I worship you because you are worthy of worship. That's the worship of a free man. Look at du'as like Kumayl, like Mashlul, from the tongue of Ali ibn Abi Talib. And that's why a fitting line is the line of the Sikh poet, Kinnaur Singh, who says, Oh Ali, you belong to every faith, every age and all people. We'll never let anyone take your honor, and we'll never let anyone claim you as your own, because Ali ibn Abi Talib belongs to every human being.
On the event of the birth anniversary of Imam Ali alayhi salam, Al-Mustafa Islamic Trust is honoring to offer a gift of top-up of 1,000 Guyana dollar to those whose names are Ali in their ID.